to the United stand. Ruud van Nistelrooy, first press conference before the Chelsea game as Manchester United interim first team manager. Ruud van Nistelrooy has had a lot to stay. He confirms his plans. He wants to stay at Manchester United. He wants to fulfill his contract as the assistant manager at Manchester United. Do you want him to stay? Will Ineos keep him on? He's made it very, very clear that his ideal scenario is that he stays at Manchester United. If he doesn't stay, that's because Ineos have decided not to stick with him, or Amorim might not want him as well. What are your thoughts? What do you want? Also talks about speaking to Sir Alex Ferguson, speaking to Ten Hag, what his plans were before the game, what the feelings are around managing Manchester United, his conversations with Ineos about how long he's going to be interim manager at Manchester United, and obviously talks a little bit about the Chelsea game as well, because it is a pre-match presser for the Chelsea game at Old Trafford on Sunday. I think a lot of people are excited. I feel a lot of people would have been really nervous for this game under Ten Hag, but with the new manager bounce that we've seen last night, very different face in Chelsea than it is a second-string Leicester side, 100%. But a lot of people are excited and feel like we can go out there and beat Chelsea. I feel like there's a lot of positivity in the fan base surrounding Ruud van Nistelrooy. Extremely happy for him in terms of the win, obviously, last night. But it's going to be an absolutely different kettle of fish against that Chelsea side and Enzo Maresca, who I think looks like a very good manager so far in the Premier League. But the bulk of the press conference was obviously about Ten Hag sacking, the future of Ruud van Nistelrooy, and basically just trying to get some information about Ruud van Nistelrooy's plans and his relationship with Ten Hag as well. Because if you don't remember, the rumours from the media and the rumours throughout the whole of the summer when Ruud van Nistelrooy came in and the start of this season was he was brought in to replace Ten Hag. He was the silent assassin. It was Ineos who brought in Ruud van Nistelrooy. It wasn't Ten Hag, and that was a cover-up. Well, all of this has been debunked. It was Ten Hag who went and got Ruud van Nistelrooy. Ruud van Nistelrooy is extremely upset that Ten Hag has been sacked. They shared the same footballing vision and the same passion for Manchester United. And his future might well be up in the air, but he loves Manchester United that much that he wants to stay and fulfill his assistant manager role, and whether he can work with Amorim, that'll be decided. But get all your comments down below. Honestly, guys, one thing I will say is, as much as I have respect for Ten Hag, and I've had the pleasure of speaking to Ten Hag in press conferences before, let's be completely honest, they got tough. They got very tough, Ten Hag's press conference, especially when we weren't winning games. It was really tough to get answers out of him, and they were really tough to sort of listen to, because a lot of it you just felt like was beating around the bush and excuses. It's really nice to get a press conference when you feel like you've got an open and honest conversation, and it's different. It's completely different, and it feels like there's a sense of positivity around Ruud van Nistelrooy. So let's get cracking into some of the quotes. I mean, first and foremost, I would have liked to listen to it live, didn't have the opportunity to do so. It is a little bit different when you are reading a transcript. But usually when I used to read the Ten Hag transcripts, it'd be like 2 lines or 3 lines. The first answer from Ruud van Nistelrooy is about that long. It's about 3 paragraphs long. So that's automatically something a little bit different. But the first thing we have to cover is Ruud van Nistelrooy confirming that he wants to stay at Manchester United. He said, "I decided to come back here for a very important reason, and that is why I'm here. I came as an assistant to help the club, and I'm still very motivated to do so in any capacity, as an assistant and now as an interim manager. And after that, I go back to my assistant manager contract that I have here for this season and next. I am very motivated to stay here and help the club going forward. That is my absolute goal." And me reading into that, I am very motivated to stay here and help the club going forward. That is my absolute goal. I will go back to my assistant manager contract for this year and next year. I think that is Ruud van Nistelrooy making it very, very clear that if it's down to him, he will be staying at Manchester United. So now he's come out and said that. If Ruud van Nistelrooy does end up leaving the club, which is a possibility, we will know it's because Ineos felt like they would rather just stick with Amorim and his coaches, and maybe too many cooks in the kitchen spoil the soup or spoil the broth, whatever the metaphor, not metaphor, whatever the saying is for that, that'll be what it is. Because remember, a lot of people wanted Ralph Rangnick to stay. when Erik Ten Hag was coming in, but the rumours were that Erik Ten Hag didn't want Ralf Rangnick there. Amorim might not want Ruud van Nistelrooy there. My personal thoughts and feelings on it is I would love to keep Ruud van Nistelrooy at the club only if he buys into Amorim's vision and Amorim's philosophy and Amorim wants to work with him. I think it could be super beneficial for Ruben Amorim coming into the Premier League to have someone with him who knows these players, has worked with him from the summer, knows the way they acted towards Erik Ten Hag in his last few months, because Ruud van Nistelrooy will have seen that firsthand, demands respect from the dressing room due to his status as a player, knows what it took to have a successful winning environment as a player in that dressing room at Manchester United, and knows the club inside out. I think that could be super beneficial. But it's not going to be beneficial if Ruud van Nistelrooy has a certain idea of the way he wants Manchester United to play, which is obviously, why he was working with Erik Ten Hag, because they shared the same football philosophy. If Ruben Amorim has a completely different philosophy to Ruud van Nistelrooy, then that might not work. But if he can somehow get on board with the way Ruben Amorim wants to play and work with him, I think it'd be great to keep him around. And Ruud van Nistelrooy seems very open to that, considering what he said in him wanting to stay at Manchester United as fulfilling his assistant manager contract. Cyprian Jahid says, I love Ruud, or we may love him, but does this new boss want to work with him? Exactly. We all love Ruud. He's a legend. I'm so glad he won last night. But bottom line is, if Ruben Amorim comes in and says, I don't like the way Ruud's doing things, I don't like the way he's working, I want it just to be my coaches and who I want in place, then I'm sorry, the new coach has to rule. The new manager has to have the final say. As much as I love Ruud, as much as in an ideal world, I would love to see him work with the new manager, Ruben Amorim, and I'd love to see them thrive together. If Ruben Amorim comes in and is like, you know what, thank you so much, Ruud, I respect you so much as a player and as a coach, but I just don't think we can work together, and he decides that, then you've got to side with the new manager in Ruben Amorim. So it all depends on what Ruben Amorim wants, and I think that Ineos will massively take that on board. If Ruben Amorim comes in and says, you know what, I'd love to work with Ruud van Nistelrooy, and they have that conversation and they can work together, I don't think Ineos will be trying to get Ruud van Nistelrooy out the door. I think they'll want that to happen. They've given him a 2-year contract. They're not going to want to buy him out, and Ruud wants to stay. He's made that very, very, very vocal. I think it's only if Ruben Amorim comes in and is like, no, this is the way I want it, is the only way that Ruud van Nistelrooy goes. Sergin says, clean break needed. Denzel DeRoy says, Amorim is coming with his assistant. Yeah, of course. He's bringing his coaches, bringing his assistants. He literally has said in the past that, if he's Bobby Robson, his assistant coach is Jose Mourinho, that's how important they are and how much of a team they are. Like, they're coming with him. We know that already. The news has come out. But it doesn't mean Ruud van Nistelrooy automatically will have no job. If they come in and decide to work together, then that could be the case. But I didn't think Ruud would want to, step back that much. But he's made it clear that he wants to stay at the club. So let's see what happens with that one. But I think it will be Amorim's choice, and we'll have to see how that plays out. And that's what I would put it abundantly clear. As much as we love Ruud, we have to respect what the new manager wants. So let's see what happens with that. He then talks about how difficult it was that Erik Ten Hag had to leave. He said, I was very disappointed, obviously with very mixed feelings about that, because you have to switch the mindset to win, because 75,000 people are waiting and celebrating and millions are watching at home. That's what we try to do. The same for Sunday, and we will see. So, talking about Erik Ten Hag there, how it was very difficult, but he's obviously got to switch into that first team manager mode, which he did yesterday, and he got a very good result, so he clearly did that successfully. I mean, I think a lot, no disrespect to Ruud, because obviously he's got to pick the team, he's got to set him up, he's got to give him the team talk and everything like that, but I think most managers would have got a reaction out of Manchester United last night. It usually always happens when a manager gets sacked. We've seen it time and time again before. But he also mentions here the communication with Ineos, which I find very interesting, and I think it shows how well Ineos are working behind the scenes. He said, it's going to be a short job as an interim. That was communicated very clear, and I was happy with that. I felt I was called upon to help the club forward in this situation. So Ruud van Nistelrooy there being very clear, not mixing his words. Ineos spoke to him and they made it very clear in communications that this would be a short interim role. again, to me, this solidifies what I thought had happened. After the Spurs game, when they had that meeting, or was it after the Aston Villa game when they had the meeting? It was around that time. I think after the Spurs game is when they decided Erik Ten Hag's probably going to be going this season and we need to get some contingency plans in place. I think when they had that meeting in London, that is when they decided what was going to happen. Ruben Amorim was their first choice. They were going to hunt him down and try and get him to be Manchester United's new manager. And they worked behind the scenes very quietly, very silently to do so. Nobody had the exclusive until David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano put it out. There was so much talk about Tuchel. There was so much talk about Xavi. Nagelsmann got some talks. Ruben Amorim didn't really get mentioned that much. And suddenly it was the bomb that was dropped by Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein and other reporters at The Athletic, I think Laurie Whitlow as well, and a few people worked on that story. So it was very, very quiet until Ruben Amorim came in. They were working on that deal. They never thought Ruud van Nistelrooy was going to... We'll see how he does in the interim role and, potentially he could stay on as manager. He was never brought in the summer to take over Erik Ten Hag if Erik Ten Hag couldn't do the job. It was never the narrative that was put out in the media. And I think it shows how Ineos work. I think it shows the difference to the Glazers for a start, because I do think if it was just the Glazers running the show, and don't get me wrong, I know the Glazers are still involved, but I think if it was just the Glazers running the show on the footballing side and things, Erik Ten Hag probably would have been sacked, yes, but I think they just would have give it to Ruud and saw how he did and kind of judge it on that, and it might have even been Ruud until the end of the season, until they can figure out who they want, or they might have even given him the job full time, who knows. Whereas Ineos knew from the start they weren't going to go down the same route as what we did with Ollie. As much as we love and respect Ruud, you're in to do a job on a very short-term basis. We've already gone and contacted Ruben Amorim. He's our first choice. We've done the background work on him. He's ready to come in the November international break, and that's job done. So I think it shows that Ineos move very smart, very quickly. And to be honest with you, as much as I do feel sorry for Erik Ten Hag, I think the way Ineos have handled this whole situation has been very, very clever. And I think they've moved in a very smart way. I thought the way they handled the whole Erik Ten Hag future in the summer, I think it went on for way too long. And I think they put too much out there publicly, like they were going speaking to other managers and everything like that. And I thought the whole thing looked, a little bit amateurish. But I think this time round, this season, the way that they've gone about getting rid of Erik Ten Hag and bringing Ruben Amorim in, as much as it is ruthless, literally the same day as Erik Ten Hag's sackings and outs, we're getting Ruben Amorim in as manager. I think they've done it in a very smart way, and it's clearly been communicated that way behind the scenes to Ruud van Nistelrooy as well. Unique Baller says, did you see our performance yesterday? We need Ruud. We haven't played like that since Jose Mourinho and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You're falling into the trap, Unique Baller. You're falling into the trap. It's exactly what happened when Ole took over and we won 5-1 at Cardiff, was it? And then everyone was saying Ole was at the wheel. And, you've got to learn from your mistakes. You've got to learn from your mistakes. As much as I love Ole as a legend of the club, as a player, and he gave us the treble. And there were some fantastic moments under him as Manchester United manager. He never should have been given the job on a permanent basis. And if you do the same thing again with Ruud van Nistelrooy, you're just not learning from your mistakes. It's the same thing as Manchester United not having a left-back all season and then again not buying one in the summer. Learn from your mistakes. You've got to learn from your mistakes in football. But anyway, there's no point talking about it because Ruud has made it clear he will not be Manchester United first-team manager. It's a short-term basis. Van Nistelrooy gets asked about Erik Ten Hag's sacking. This made me, I'm very, honestly, it's very easy to pull at my heartstrings. I think I shed a tear when Fred left Manchester United when I saw his goodbye video. Honestly, it's very, very easy to play on my emotions and play on my heartstrings. But Ruud van Nistelrooy got asked about the Erik Ten Hag sacking, and he said, I felt I was called upon to help the club forward in this situation. Obviously, it was difficult that Erik Ten Hag had to leave. I was very disappointed, obviously with very mixed feelings about that. I've already read this bit. I feel like they're changing the quotes here. 1 second. Here we go. Van Nistelrooy, sorry guys, I already read that quote out before. I saw him Monday here and I spoke to him yesterday before the game. In the first conversation we had, for me to come back with him, I felt he really cared and wanted to bring this club forward. That is why we connected. It hurt that he had to leave. So Ruud van Nistelrooy there talks about his relationship with Erik ten Hag. The reason he came back to Manchester United was because of his conversations with Erik ten Hag. He felt like he was passionate about Manchester United. He felt like he really cared for the club. And I do believe, obviously, that Erik ten Hag did everything in his power to try and get Manchester United back. He just wasn't capable of doing it in the end. And I know a lot of people became very frustrated with him, and I can understand why. But I think he did his best. And I think he did massively care about the club. But, you know, I massively care about the club. A lot of you guys at home massively care about the club. Doesn't mean we're capable of managing Manchester United. And of course, Erik ten Hag is way more capable than me and you, unless, you know, who knows who's watching out there. But it takes a very, very special type of person to be able to take on the enormity of the Manchester United job. And I think, generally, I think very few people in the world can do it. I mean, can anyone do it? Nobody's been able to successfully do it since Sir Alex Ferguson. I'm hoping Ruben Amorim can do it, but, you know, there's no certainties there that he'll be able to do it. You'd like to think there is people out there that would do it. I mean, there's some people that would say, you know, you could even give Pep the job and he'd struggle with this, with the circumstances that are at Manchester United and the environment behind the scenes that obviously Ineos is trying to change. But it takes a very, 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 very special type of person to be able to succeed at Manchester United. So Erik ten Hag did have that passion for Manchester United, and Ruud van Nistelrooy spoke yesterday, but he's also spoke again in his press conference to say that is what drew him to come back to Manchester United to work with Erik ten Hag. And, you know, they must have shared very similar views in how to get Manchester United back to the top, which is another reason why I don't think Ruud should ever have been in consideration for first team manager, because he obviously shared the same vision as Erik, and Erik's vision didn't work. Ruud van Nistelrooy also speaks about talking to Sir Alex Ferguson before managing Manchester United yesterday. And he says, yes, I spoke to him. He wished me luck. We spoke shortly about my situation, shortly about the team, and most of all, he wished me luck before the game. It's always great to speak with him. Again, you know, it's not really massive information. It's not really anything I'm going to be like, you know what, that's information that's gold, that is golden information. But it's obviously nice to know that Sir Alex Ferguson still has, you know, that feeling around the club and that connection with the club, and especially, you know, players he's managed before in terms of Ruud van Nistelrooy, and he's still got that connection. And obviously it's nice to hear that he had that conversation with Ruud van Nistelrooy, but it's not anything I wouldn't expect, to be honest with you. It's just, you know, it's just a relationship that Ruud van Nistelrooy's built, and Sir Alex Ferguson is one of the only people in the world that you can speak to who knows what it takes to successfully manage Manchester United and knows how to deal with the enormity of Manchester United. So, of course, that is a valuable conversation, and Ruud will have valued that. But, you know, Erik ten Hag went out for dinner with Sir Alex Ferguson when he became new Manchester United manager. Do you remember when all the pictures leaked of them out in Altrincham? And they were drinking the red wine and they were having dinner, and it was very wholesome, and everyone was like, this is it, we are back. Erik ten Hag's serious, he's going to take us back to the top. He's having dinner with Sir Alex. You know, that didn't lead to the success we would have wanted to. So it's nothing that's really going to affect Ruud van Nistelrooy and his position at the club. Vicky says, to be fair, we probably would have beaten that Leicester team with Ten Hag too. It's no big deal. Would we have scored 5 goals though? Would we have scored 5 goals? Because we never scored 5 goals against a Premier League team under Erik ten Hag. And I know it was in the Carabao Cup, but it's a Premier League team. It's weird because we were talking about it on the watch along yesterday. If you didn't tune in, I'll just kind of recap. Like the Casemiro shot from outside the box, it's like 1 in 50 that goes in. And then the free kick from Bruno Fernandes, he hadn't scored a free kick in the league since 2020. I mean, and it was a deflection. That goes in. So that's 2 goals already that usually probably wouldn't go in. But I was kind of hammering home, it's no coincidence that every time a manager leaves, we always get a bounce back, we always score goals. So it's sad. it really is sad that that's what it took. And I was saying, where was that last week? Where was that the week before? But, the players will know now that a new manager's coming in. They'll know that a manager's watching. They'll want to prove themselves. They'll have, that fire in their belly to prove themselves and prove that they aren't the problem at Manchester United, and they're ready to fight and be part of the new team, and they want to be part of Amorim's starting 11. They'll want that. They'll want to prove to the fans that it wasn't their fault, the weeks of poor performances we've seen. So that's where you kind of get that bounce back from, unfortunately. The Andrew Wanyan says Erik Ten Hag might not have brought much back to the top, but he sure did take them out of the pit they were in when he walked into the job. I 100% agree with you, and a lot of people will criticise me for saying this, and I'm not saying I know better than anybody else, but I have been in and around Carrington, and I'm so grateful I've had that opportunity. I've been in Erik Ten Hag press conferences, I've spoken to staff members, I've spoken to a lot of people in and around the club. I'm not going to sit here and say I have A-star sources, because it's just not what I do. But I have spoken to a lot of people in and around the club, and I've seen what it's like in and around the club. Not seen it in detail, obviously, but you get some sort of grasp. And there is no doubt in my mind that, okay, the results didn't reflect it on the pitch, and the performances didn't reflect it either. But Erik Ten Hag did a lot of groundwork in terms of changing the culture at that club and dealing with egos in the dressing room and weaning out players that didn't have the mentality to play for Manchester United. In my opinion, Piers Morgan will say otherwise, other people will say otherwise, but in my opinion, Erik Ten Hag came in and he added discipline into that changing room and into the club. Being punctual. These are just very, very small things. But, you've got to be the best in every single department if you want to be the best on the pitch. And okay, it didn't translate to Erik Ten Hag's performances in the end and the results, but he did win 2 trophies and he did change the culture at the club. I do believe that. There's still more work to be done in terms of Ruben Amorim, and I do think Erik Ten Hag's the guy before the guy in terms of Ruben Amorim. He's known for his man management, his charisma, it bringing groups of players together. I think that's maybe where Erik Ten Hag lacked a little bit. So I think Ruben Amorim will take over Erik Ten Hag's work, and hopefully he'll bring the squad together, bring the morale up, and also, obviously, we know how good of a tactician he is, and we know his style of play. He'll add that in as well. And he can then take this Manchester United team to the next level. But Erik Ten Hag definitely did lay the groundwork. It's like when, you have to knock a house down. The house it's got its structure there, and from the outside looking in, it might look all right, but when you step inside it, it can't function. You've just got to knock it down. You knock the house down, you lay the foundations. I feel like Erik Ten Hag did do that, and now you can bring Amorim in, and he can start rebuilding the house from top to the bottom, and make it in the best shape it can possibly be. That's how I feel. People will disagree with me. That's just my opinion from my perspective, being in and around the club and what I've heard. The only thing that Ten Hag did in terms of dealing with the players that I didn't necessarily agree with was when he benched Ronaldo when he first came in and he had that fallout with Ronaldo. Sadly, I do think Ronaldo, well, not sadly, because for me Ronaldo's one of the best players in the world and one of my favourite players ever at United. I think he handled Ronaldo a little bit wrong, I'm going to be honest. Ronaldo is an exception. Ronaldo did care about the club. Ronaldo, basically got looked at for working hard and trying to raise the standards. So I think the Ronaldo one's the only one that I would question how Erik Ten Hag handled it. But I do think Erik Ten Hag did lay the groundwork down for Ruben Amorim. And I just really hope Ruben Amorim can take over this and actually, get the results on the pitch and we can see us playing football, because I can't make excuses for the league performances under Ten Hag. They just were nowhere near at the level to what we needed. End Weber says, Erik Ten Hag was a nice guy. We United date after a toxic relationship. Reminds us we want to do better for ourselves. Interesting kind of a super chat there. Don't know if I'd word it in that way exactly. I'd have to think about that. But I think he's the guy before the guy. That's how I would describe it. I think Erik Ten Hag is the guy before the guy. And hopefully hopefully, fingers crossed, Ruben Amorim can be the guy, because I think what we've been lacking is somebody with that charisma, that passion, that's going to, bring that into the changing rooms, bring that to the players, but also he's going to be able to employ tactics needed to perform on the pitch. And honestly, I've done so much research into Ruben Amorim since I knew he was going to be Manchester United manager. I know, a lot of people did research into Alex Ten Hag, and then we never actually got to see the way he played at Ajax. I think Amorim will be different. I think Ineos have gone and got Amorim, where it was John Murtough and Richard Arnold that went and got Alex Ten Hag. And I think Ineos would have made it very, very clear, Dan Ashworth, Omar Barada, Jason Wilcox, Dave Brailsford, I think they would have made it very, very clear to Ruben Amorim that they are getting him from Sporting Lisbon to be Manchester United manager, to play the way that he's played at Sporting Lisbon and been super successful at Sporting Lisbon. And I think they will do everything they can in their power to facilitate him and back him. And we've got a proper footballing board in place now that is going to allow him to come in and take over that team and do what he's done best at Sporting. I mean, his achievements at Sporting are absolutely incredible. And, Sporting fans have been crying on Portuguese TV because they don't want to lose him. So if you just start to look into Amorim, I do think he will bring that tactic into Manchester United and into the Premier League. How long it'll take him to get it up and running and get it working efficiently, he might adapt it a little bit at first just to adapt it to the Manchester United team. But next season, 100%, I think you will see him going with the system that he's played at Sporting, and that's the way he's going to play. So I am excited for that. I am super, super excited for that. And we've got a show later on which I'm buzzing about, because we're going to go into more depth about Ruben Amorim and about how he might play at Manchester United, what players might thrive, and how we expect him to set up the kind of go a bit more in depth about this manager, because he is exciting me. And as much as I never thought I'd see Manchester United really play that back three, or it is a back three, not a back five, but out of possession back five. As much as I never thought we'd see us play it, especially under Alex Ten Hag, that is going to be a reality, and I'm excited to see something different. But anyway, that was Ruud van Nistelrooy's press conference, guys. Not loads of information there. I don't think there was actually anything there about actually the Chelsea team. Just kind of talking about Alex Ten Hag and talking about the honour it is to manage Manchester United. Let me just have a look at the other website I usually use for the Ruud van Nistelrooy presser, because okay, there's more here. There's more quotes coming in. Okay, I've got it. Sorry guys, I was reading off the MEM website, but I thought that was it finished, but there has been more quotes, so I'm going onto our Twitter now to try and get them out. So frustrating when you can't actually watch a press conference in full. Okay. Ruud van Nistelrooy on if he will stay when the new manager comes in. He said, "We will see, but it's a contract situation that I'm in, and my desire to help the club forward so I can speak to you about my side of the story." So Ruud van Nistelrooy, again, making it clear, if it's down to him, he wants to stay, but he'll have to have a conversation with the new manager. He said, "After that, when the new situation is occurring, when the new manager is signing and conversations take place, we will have to see how things develop. It's going to be an Amorim decision. We know this." He says, "This club is in a difficult situation and it is not where we all wanted to be, and there is a challenge there, but that is why I am here." Very good attitude to have. He said, "Everybody's looking at Manchester United and the situation that it's in, but it's us as people on the floor that are here to do the utmost, supported by our fans. It's a process and it's something to work for and do everything for." Again, Ruud van Nistelrooy, he knows the attitude it takes to reach the top at Manchester United, and he will believe in himself. That's where he's got to where he wants to be. Ruud van Nistelrooy, when he got asked about what went wrong for Erik ten Hag this season, God, there's so many more quotes coming out from our Twitter. Why was I just looking at the MEN? I have no idea, but anyway, we move. So Ruud van Nistelrooy and why it went wrong for Erik ten Hag this season. He said, "I think In the end, it's also clear in football that it's the results, and Eric also said that. As you say, in pre-season, we had the new style, we were all very positive and working very hard to bring the club forward. There's also things you can't explain sometimes. The Brighton goal we scored, Garner, Villa, Joshin. Yeah, you know, Ruud van Nistelrooy is right. There is fine margins in football. Of course there is. And, you know, if the Brighton goal goes in and Garnacho, you know, goes and makes it 2-1 at Brighton, we might win that game. And, you know, the confidence might be different and Manchester United might go on a winning run. At the end of the day, we played poor in the league throughout the whole of last season, came 8th. This season, so far, we're on track for an even worse finish. We're 14th. Like, that can't just be down to fine margins and coincidences. You've got to play better. So, Ruud van Nistelrooy defending Alex Ten Hag there, of course he is. But at the end of the day, it is results-based business. And if you actually look at Manchester United's performances on the pitch over the course of 90 minutes, we never dominated teams. We always looked like we struggled. You know, lesser teams would come and dominate us at Old Trafford. We just never looked like we were going to put teams to a sword. We didn't look like an elite team. So, to say, okay, yeah, if that goal went in, things might be different. You can always talk about that in football. There is fine margins. You know, if Michael Oliver hadn't got involved with that VAR decision, you know, Erik ten Hag might still be manager until the next loss, but they were always going to get rid of him. You know, Ruben Amorim would have, as soon as the next loss came for Erik ten Hag, Ruben Amorim was going to be the guy, and they were going to make that decision. So there just wasn't enough on the pitch to make you believe in it. And I wanted Ten Hag to work and want him to stay, but even I knew this season there was nothing to make you think, you know what, yeah, it's going to work. The only time I thought, you know what, we might be onto something was that first 60 minutes at Crystal Palace away when I thought we played really good football, but apart from that, you couldn't really see anything, could you? Ruud van Nistelrooy on the results being the most important thing. There's been so many games where we felt like we could get a better result for the way that we played. I'm talking Palace, I'm talking West Ham, I'm talking Fenerbahce, and I'm talking Porto. But in the end, we also know it's about results. This is the game and it's part of our jobs. Basically saying exactly what I was saying there in terms of, yeah, okay, we could have done better, but we didn't in the end. Ruud van Nistelrooy, again, this is the tweet that I'm reading off. Reporter, will it be Ruben Amorim's tactics or yours in the next games? Ruud says, is he already announced? Or reporter says, I don't know, not yet. Ruud says, so then don't talk to somebody that is not announced. So Ruud van Nistelrooy making it very, very clear that he won't be talking about Ruben Amorim until he is officially announced by Manchester United. When can we expect that announcement of Ruben Amorim? I think Saturday morning, maybe, is when you expect to see Ruben Amorim confirmed by Manchester United that he'll be Manchester United manager. I mean, Sir Dave Brailsford outside of Old Trafford was like, yeah, it's done to the fans. Got all of him, bless him. I think he just felt under pressure to give an answer. Ruben Amorim is speaking in his Sporting Lisbon press conference saying everything will be revealed after the Sporting game. So I think he just wants to keep respectful to Sporting, probably say his own goodbye to the fans and everything like that, and do it on his terms. And then I think Manchester United will announce it. So yeah, Ruben Amorim will be Manchester United's next manager, but, you know, Ruud van Nistelrooy will have been, you know, they will have had a meeting before that press conference. You know, the comms team at Manchester United, you know, when you're talking to Ruud van Nistelrooy, preparing him for that press conference, they'll say, you will get asked about Ruben Amorim, but we're not announcing anything yet, so we're not going to talk on that. And that's just basically what Ruud van Nistelrooy was trying to say in that notion. But I think, finally there, we've got through all the quotes. Finally got him. Thank you very much, Matt, for getting them all out on the United stand. So sorry there was a bit of a pause the way through that press conference. If you just wanted a short and sweet presser reaction where we got through the quotes, bang, 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 that isn't quite what happened today. But look, we got there in the end, and I think it was actually really nice to have that conversation about surrounding Ruud's answers and talk a little bit about Erik ten Hag and just kind of put that era to bed. Put that era to bed. You know, it could have been a lot different with Ruud van Nistelrooy, Rene Harker, Erik ten Hag this season, but it just wasn't meant to be. It didn't work out. The big question, though, for me is, will Ruud van Nistelrooy stay on with Ruben Amorim? I think we'll find out very, very shortly, because Ruben Amorim, as soon as he's into Manchester United, will have to make that decision. And Ruud van Nistelrooy has said, you know, it's up to them, because I want to stay. Last but not least, actually, and then I will actually wrap this up and let you all move on with your day. I was watching Goldbridge on his morning show, and he was saying how he doesn't like the fact that Amorim's not coming in until the international break, and he wanted it to be sooner. Just to kind of offer a different perspective on that, I'm going to be honest, I actually think it's good that he's coming in the international break. I would have loved to see Amorim in for Chelsea, don't get me wrong, it's exciting. But to throw him into that sort of game at Old Trafford with no preparations, you know, no chance to get to know the team, at least Ruud van Nistelrooy knows the team. I mean, okay, yeah, he's not a long-term option, and we are kind of just living off Vibes FC at the moment. He even said himself, he told Bruno Fernandes to just go out there and enjoy himself last night, and, you know, he looks exactly like he did that. But you throw Amorim in to Chelsea, you know, you start off with a loss. Then you've got to kind of do catch-up, and you've got the Europa League game. You've got no time really to work with the players, no time on the training ground at all. You are throwing him in the deep end a little bit midway through a season, and you can kill that new manager bounce very, very quickly. So I think Ruud taking over for Leicester, obviously we got the win, so worked out. Chelsea, I still feel like we'll be living off the hype of that Leicester game. Of course, I know it's a very different calibre of players, and Chelsea game is going to be a lot harder. But if we do lose that Chelsea game, it's not under Amorim. Do you know what I mean? It's under Ruud, who won't be the manager in the future anyway, so it doesn't kind of affect the feelings around the new manager surrounding Ruben Amorim. Then you move on to the Europa League game. Surely Ruud can win that at Old Trafford. Surely. And then you move on to Leicester at home, who he's already beat. And yeah, okay, it wasn't the first team, the strongest side. But I think Ruud's got a very good chance against Leicester. You get Amorim in the international break. He can settle into Manchester. He can, you know, get his house set up. He can get into Carrington. He can get his staff in. He can meet the other coach he's going to be working with, you know, Darren Fletcher, Ruud van Nistelrooy, decide if he wants to keep them around. You know, he can get settled in. And yeah, okay, most of the players are going to be on international break, so we won't see them till they get back. But he'll still be able to work with the players who aren't. And there will be players that aren't there, that are in and around the first team. So he has that opportunity just to get his feet under the door and get settled. You start him off with Ipswich away. I'm sorry, but it's like, no disrespect to Kieran McKenna and Ipswich, and we might go there and get beat, who knows. But you'd see that as a relatively easy fixture for Manchester United. So you start him off with a relatively easy fixture, you know, get the hype up from that win, and then you look at the games you've got after that. You look at the run we've got after Ipswich away. You've got Ipswich away, you've got Bodo Glimt at home, you've then got Everton at home, and there's some decent fixtures. Okay, then you've got Arsenal away, but then you've got Forest. That'll be a tough game actually. Forest are doing well this season. And then you've got a Europa League game away, Victoria Pleasant in, I think that's the one that's in Czech Republic, if I'm not wrong. So I think it's not the end of the world that he's coming in the international break, to be honest with you. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think Ruud can handle these few fixtures. Hopefully we don't drop points. And you know what? If we do drop points to Chelsea, people will be like, oh, we should have got Amorim in. There's no guarantees Amorim would have come in and won that game. Chelsea are a very good side. And Amorim hasn't even had won't have chance to speak to the players or get to know them. Never mind, you know, hold tactical meetings and study that Chelsea side. So it'd be very, very short turnaround. I think get him into the international break, give him a little bit of time, give him a bit of breathing space. And I think that works for Manchester United right now. But look, guys, wanting to offer that kind of little bit of different perspective, because I don't think it's the end of the world that he's coming in that international break. But I'm super excited for Amorim to get into the club. Can't wait for it to be officially announced. He will be the next Manchester United manager, but we are waiting on that official announcement. Get down in the comments down below. Do you expect Ruud to stay on and work with Ruben Amorim? What are your thoughts on Ruud's first press conference? Did you like it? Did you like the detail of his answers? What did you think about his comments surrounding Erik Ten Hag? Do you think he's got too much connection to Erik Ten Hag to stay at the club since Erik Ten Hag's gone? Do you want him to stay? How do you feel he's going to do in his next few fixtures? Honestly, won at Leicester. Can we get a draw against Chelsea? Actually, no. I think we'll draw or a win against Chelsea, win in the Europa League, win against Leicester. I think he's going to have a good time of it, Ruud, and then Amorim can come in and get to work. But look, everyone, thank you for tuning in to the first Ruud van Nistelrooy press conference reaction. It was an absolute pleasure to do it and to get into it with you guys. Thank you for all the comments that came in as well. Please make sure you hit a like on the video. Really do appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel as well. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one, everyone.